Well, good afternoon and good evening for all of my East Coast friends. And welcome to the Longevity and Performance panel hosted by Inside Tracker. My name is Natalie Mitchell, and I will be your moderator for tonight's panel. So a little bit about me. I'm a 12-time marathoner, a run coach, and a passionate runner that decided in my early 40s that I have a lot left to discover in this sport. And although I'm a lifelong runner who competed in high school and at the Division I level at university, I believe that my fastest days are ahead of me. So I'm a mom to 3 great kids, Josh, Megan, and Elle, and wife to my husband, Gerald, who is also my co-host of the Sweet Run podcast. So together, we host a weekly show where we chat with passionate runners about the best places to run and all the intimate travel details about their hometowns. I am so honored to moderate this special panel of legends that are among the best athletes on the planet. And I am so excited for all of you to hear their incredible perspective and advice on longevity and performance in sport. This conversation is being recorded, and the link to view our discussion will be available tomorrow on Inside Tracker's IGTV. So I'm going to begin with the first question, and I will introduce our esteemed guests along the way. The first question goes to Shalane Flanagan. Shalane needs no introduction, but we love hearing about her impressive accomplishments. 4-time Olympian, Olympic silver medalist, world cross-country bronze medalist, American record holder, Nike Bowerman Track Club coach, 2-time New York Times best-selling cookbook author of her awesome books, Run Fast, Eat Slow, and Run Fast, Cook Fast, Eat Slow. The 2017 New York City Marathon champion and mom to her son, Jack, who just turned 1 yesterday. Happy birthday, Jack. And wife to her husband, Steve. And our first question, Shalane, is, what does the word longevity mean to you as an endurance athlete?
Yeah, I don't know that I really thought early in my career about longevity. I was very much focusing on the here and the now and getting results. But as I started to get further into my career and realizing I needed to maybe, think about the long game and the long run more and more, to me, longevity is like creating sustainable forever habits. I have a way of life that I love, and I want to keep doing what I love. And so it's really creating these daily rituals, routines, and habits that feel sustainable, that I can do it forever. So if I want to run, I do. I want to run for as long as I can. I'm about to turn 40, but if I can run till I'm 90, I will be. It just makes me feel alive. I feel happy. I think I'm a better person because I run. So to me, like I said, it's creating those sustainable forever habits.
I love that. I love that, Shalane. And it's so neat for everybody to hear your perspective on that, especially as someone who's been in the sport for such a long time. So I'm going to throw that same question to Dean. So Dean, will you tell us, as an amazing endurance athlete, what does the word longevity mean to you?
That means continuing to run 100-mile foot races, even when I'm in my 60s and 70s. I think what Shalane said is very relevant. It's, you are the sum of your habits. And I think having good habits is crucial. I also think that continually improving. So this idea of never stop exploring, never stop learning. And you can always better yourself, and adapting and changing and course correcting where necessary. But continuing to show up on the starting line, paying your dues in training and preparation, and continuing to show up on the starting line, even as you get slower and get older, but just still showing up and still being dedicated to the sport we all love.
Awesome. Rebecca, I'm going to ask you the very same question. So as an endurance athlete, what does the word longevity mean to you?
I mean, technically it means long life. Like I looked up the definition and just kind of looked at the Latin roots and yeah, it means living a long time. But for me, kind of like everybody else is talking about, it's not just surviving a long time, but thriving for a long time and feeling good as an athlete and a human and as a performer. And I like what Dean said about how we're constantly evolving. And I'm 52 years old and still competing at a really high level and performing at a really high level. And what I like to call it instead of our age is I'm on version 5.2 of Rebecca. And so we all have the opportunity with each version to improve and grow and evolve. And so, yeah, longevity for me is not just surviving, but thriving and making each version a little bit better than the one before.
I love that. Rebecca, and you are doing some amazing things in this sport and showing everybody that no matter your age, you can still be this phenomenal endurance athlete. Now I'd like to introduce you, everyone who knows, I know unless you've been living under a rock, you know who Dean Carnassus is, but I would like to formally introduce him. So Dean was named by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. Dean Carnassus is an ultramarathoner, a best-selling author, and public speaker. And Dean has competed on all 7 continents and won the world's toughest foot race, the 135-mile Badwater Ultramarathon across Death Valley. Dean's new book, which I am reading, and it is fantastic, everybody, so definitely go get a copy of it. It's called A Runner's High, and it's an endocannabinoid fueled journey through the highs and lows of running great distances without stopping, culminating in a confrontation with the most notorious of foot races, the 100-mile Western States endurance run, known to snap competitors like twigs. So, Dean, I want to ask you a question. What are your running goals for 2021?
I want to get back to the race course, that's for sure. So I've got plans to travel to Greece in June to run 10 marathons in 10 days to celebrate the Greek bicentennial of Greek independence. And then originally it was scheduled for July, but now August, I'm scheduled to travel to Australia to run across Australia. So those are kind of my big goals. I also hope to get back to the Boston Marathon. Not nearly as fast as Shalane, but I still enjoy running Boston as much as I ever did, and also run New York City Marathon, which is one of my favorites. And bowing to Rebecca, I also have a double century lined up here where I live in Marin, which is just north of San Francisco. I've got a double century scheduled for July.
That's really cool.
It's a bike ride, by the way, double century bike ride.
Yes, I remember that. I've done some triathlons and I remember those century rides. I think I've never actually done one, but I've had friends who've done them. So that's pretty cool, Dean. We'll be cheering you on.
Join me,
Rebecca. Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
Come join me. That'd be even better.
Oh man, I have to get in shape for that. Rebecca, will you tell us what your 2021 goals are?
Sure. And I love that you had to clarify that it was a double century bike ride, because Dean, everyone probably thought you were doing a double century run. Like that wouldn't be so out of the question. So I was kind of like, oh, that'll be quick. A bike ride, no big deal. That's awesome. I love that. And kind of on that point a little bit, I'm primarily a cyclist, but I actually have some running goals this year, which are kind of cool. And, as far as my athletic goals for this year, I've already ticked off 2 really big ones. The Iditarod in Alaska, and then riding across Iceland by bike. snow bike. So those are checked off. So I'm actually kind of in rest mode right now, and I've got a big event coming up. And so I'm really focused on trying to help motivate other people. It's spring fever. Everyone wants to get outside. So I have an event called the Giddy Up Challenge coming up the end of May. That is an elevation challenge of various distances, various elevations, running, biking. I think Dean is actually signed up for it, which is awesome. And it's raising money to protect our wild spaces and public lands through my foundation, the Be Good Foundation. So that's coming up, and I'm going to actually do that challenge on foot. So I'm doing a bike portion one day, but then I'm going to do a challenge on foot. And I've signed up for my first ultra run this summer ever, which I'm pretty excited about, in my own backyard, called the Stand Hope Ultra. And so my original sport, my first sport was running. A lot of people don't know that, in high school and college. And so I'm kind of coming back around and signing up for some of my first running events in a while. But I'm also going to be exploring Idaho by bike. I've got some bike packing adventures in my own backyard, feeling like I want to explore my home state right now. So that's what I've got going on.
That's so exciting. And who wouldn't want to explore your home state? I went to Idaho for the first time last summer and fell in love with it. I almost didn't come back home. It's so beautiful there.
Thank you. I mean, that's why I live here. And yeah, I feel like a lot of people, this whole year have been discovering their backyards. And I think it's really cool. And I've been doing rides that I've never done before. And I think that's happening worldwide. And I really like that phenomenon of people finding outdoors and finding their own backyards right now.
It's really cool. Well, I know whatever you do, Rebecca, you're going to do it, and it's going to be amazing. So that's very cool. Shalane, what are your goals for 2021?
Oh, I didn't know you were going to ask this question, but now that I'm put on the spot, no, I'm a coach now. I am a retired athlete, but I still have athletic aspirations of my own. So my first goal is to have the Olympic Games in Tokyo and get as many of my athletes fulfilling their lifelong dream of becoming Olympians and competing in the Olympics safely. So that will be this, July and August. And to be at the Olympics as a coach, a whole new role for me. I'm so excited to just cheer on these incredible athletes. I know how hard they've worked, and having it delayed, and this delayed gratification is going to feel extremely rewarding for everyone. And I think the world just loves having athletic events to kind of bring each other together. And what a better way after a really hard year to kind of come together, right? So that's at the forefront of my mind. After that, I have some really fun things kind of planned this fall. There's as we've seen, the majors are all uniquely laid out this fall. So I've kind of got some wild ideas about maybe some athletic things myself this fall, on a selfish note, some bucket list things to accomplish. But yeah, I had a knee surgery, and I've recovered, and I feel reinvigorated. I feel alive again. I think I did a lot of hard training throughout my career, and there wasn't a lot of rest and recovery, and a forced recovery of a double knee surgery has had me just feeling really fresh again and excited. And I've hopped in a few workouts with some of my athletes, and I've just gotten kind of the itch to get out and be with people and be with the running community again. I think everyone misses being with our people, and I can't wait to, hug people at the finish line and be giving high fives. And I miss that a lot. So yeah, I'll be back out in the community, but number one is supporting the athletes that I get to work with. I'm so excited to be there for them as a coach this year.
Yeah, that's so neat. I mean, everything that you've accomplished as an athlete, and now to be able to give that all back to your athletes and watch them is exciting for all of us. So it's really cool to see that. And we can't wait to find out what your athletic goals are this fall. We'll all be stalking and waiting.
Yeah. They're more on the back burner. The athletes take priority, but I've got some fun ideas and way to incorporate friendships and all of it again. So it'll be good.
That's awesome. I would like everyone, I'm going to formally introduce you to Rebecca Rusch. Rebecca is amazing. She is a 7-time world champion. She has been inducted into the Mountain Biking Hall of Fame. She is a 4-time Leadville winner. She won an Emmy Award, you guys, for her film Blood Road. And if you haven't watched the film, I highly recommend it. It is so powerful and moving. And Rebecca is also an award-winning author. And she also lives in one of the most beautiful states in the US. So I have a question for you, Rebecca. And I'm so excited about this because I've kind of seen some glimpses of what you did. And I want to know, or we want to know, you just returned from your epic adventures in Alaska and Iceland. So how do you prepare for a trip like that is the first part. And how do you prioritize and stay on top of your nutrition, rest, and recovery?
Yeah, so thanks for the question and the really nice intro. So to give everybody a little bit of background, this was a big winter of bike expeditions, and the two races that are events that Natalie was talking about, the expeditions, one was the Iditarod Trail in Alaska, 350 miles, self-supported. You basically have everything on your bike, your food, you're sleeping outside. And I went and I won that race, and I was the only athlete to do it fully self-supported, which means I didn't go into any of the cabins or lodges for 6 days. So that was 6 days, and then I had a couple weeks off and went straight into an Iceland expedition, which was a similar distance, about 350 miles, and crossing from north to south the interior of Iceland on bikes, on a track that had never been done before, very remote, also self-support. And that took about 6 days as well. So those were two really big journeys right back to back. And how I train for them, we kind of talked about longevity is really a lifestyle. I'm not like off the couch going, oh, in 2 months, I think I didn't decide in November that I was going to do these big bike expeditions. I've been kind of training my whole life. And I do feel like the culmination of my skills are really coming together in these big expeditions and, big exploratory expeditions. And I know Dean does a lot of that kind of stuff too. And you need years and years and years and years of experience to give you the tools to be able to do that. And so, I have a coach, I have regular training, but what I'm really focused on now, really in the last sort of 5 years, is what I call the spaces in between. And so anyone can like crank out the miles, get a heart rate monitor, get a power meter, and that science is proven for performance. But I feel like now where I'm going to the next level is the spaces in between. So prioritizing sleep, prioritizing bringing your nervous system down, prioritizing, cortisol levels or the nutrition, what you put in your body, how much water you drink. There's so much performance improvement that can come from those places. And that's where we neglect ourselves and, we'll go crank out a workout and then go straight to work and like not drink any water. And so I'm really been prioritizing the spaces in between. And I'm super excited because that's exactly what Inside Tracker is helping me measure. Instead of going, I think I should get more sleep, or I think I'm kind of tired. We actually now have proof of what's causing that and what we can do about it. That was a long answer. Sorry.
No, I was just taking it all in, and I'm sure everybody listening is as well. I mean, I just think that you really do have to dial that in to be the best athlete you can be. And speaking of that, I want to introduce Stevie Lynn Smith to everybody that doesn't know Stevie. She is a registered dietitian on the Inside Tracker team. She is also, and I just found this out today, this is awesome. She's an Ironman athlete and a dog mom. So welcome, Stevie. And this is actually a perfect way to segue into the next question for everybody. It's an Inside Tracker specific question. So let's start with Dean. How does Inside Tracker's customized action plan help you optimize your nutrition and recovery? And what 2 to 3 biomarkers are you working on optimizing now and why?
Yeah, I mean, these are really good questions. And until you actually measure your biomarkers, how do you really know, to Rebecca's point, where you stand? So 2 things that really stood out to me was that my magnesium levels were low. So I actually worked with Stevie as far as customizing a plan that included more foods that were high in magnesium, as well as magnesium supplements. And the other biomarker that is chronically a problem with me, and I imagine some of you as well, is iron. My iron levels are chronically low, and I don't eat a lot of red meat, very little red meat. I primarily eat plant-based, but eat protein from the sea, so seafood. And I've started taking some iron supplements. And I learned that not all iron supplements are created equal. Iron is an element, and you can eat the element as though you're eating a nail, for instance, and it's not absorbed very well. But if you have iron in the form of hemoglobin or blood, if it's bound in a hemoglobin molecule, the absorption is much better. But if you're not eating a lot of red meat, how do you get the actual hemoglobin? There are iron supplements out there that are in a form, heme, that's bound, so you absorb them. You absorb iron much more efficiently. So those are the two biomarkers I've really been focusing on. Does that address your question?
Yes, absolutely. No, I was kind of taking it in. I just had an inside tracker test done about a week ago, so I'm waiting for my results to come in as well. And so I'm kind of going to take notes on what you said, Dean, and kind of see how my iron levels are doing. But Shalane, will you answer for us? How does Inside Tracker's customized action plan help you optimize your nutrition and recovery? And what 2 to 3 biomarkers are you working on optimizing?
Yeah, I make the analogy of kind of like looking underneath the hood of a car. When you're working with Inside Tracker, you're getting the exact feedback of your body, and then you're getting an actionable plan specifically to you, which I love. Like Dean was saying, that, you know, as an athlete at times, there's a lot of guesswork. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of tired, or like not really pinpointing and knowing what was wrong. But having all these biomarkers to look at, like I love geeking out over them and seeing where I'm at. I wish I had used this as, you know, an athlete more often. But now I love that I can concretely look at my levels, and then I can track them if I'm making improvements or I'm not. So what I love is, I was going to pull this up, is the app that Inside Tracker gives us. So like I have a few markers here, hopefully people can see a little bit, you know, show me which are optimized, which need work, which are, you know, really far off. And one that really surprised me was my total cholesterol was off. I kind of prided myself like I'm this elite athlete, you know, I know what I'm doing. But the fact that my cholesterol was a bit high and needs some work really did, you know, shock me. So Stevie just said, you know, it's not about like necessarily taking things out as much, but maybe including more. So I love that mentality of like being inclusive with my food and not necessarily exclusive. I feel like I do have a pretty good diet, but she reinforced that I needed to get back to my oatmeal ways. I had a ton of oatmeal and oats and good fibrous foods as an elite athlete, and I probably ate too much of it before a lot of my workouts. So I had like, you know, post-traumatic stress, a little association with the oatmeal, but I've gotten back to making more of my recipes that have oats and, you know, more fibrous foods and beans, you know, so very simple things that I'm hoping will pay off big dividends. I haven't gone to get retested again, but just so simple. And I love being able to track everything that I'm doing within the day and have a plan and feel like really like the accountability is there.
Yeah, no, it's so funny when you talk about oatmeal. I feel like, I mean, I have oatmeal every single morning, and it really does like fuel you for your workouts, but I can see, you know, kind of getting a little burnt out on it as well. But no, thank you, Shalane, for talking about the cholesterol. We actually had a question come in from a listener who wanted to know about like cholesterol and how to lower it, and that it's kind of odd to feel like we have a handle on our nutrition and then to have high cholesterol. So that was interesting hearing that from you.
Yeah,
Thank
I think
you.
Stevie could definitely answer more about it. But like, for example, I did also do a test where it showed that I'm predisposed with my genetics as well. So that's like something important to know and acknowledge is my genetics definitely don't help me, but I can still take action and improve things. It may not ever be perfect, but like I'm striving to just be better every day, right? So, but it, you know, cholesterol to me, because I had some markers that were really good in terms of like cholesterol markers, and Stevie could probably elaborate on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things like, when you and I talk, Shalane, it's when you're a high performer and an athlete, you're just like, well, okay, like I've got this figured out. Like my cholesterol shouldn't be a problem. I'm very active. I follow a pretty generally healthy diet. But as you mentioned, you had the DNA test done, which is awesome that you can look and see. Like I can pull up and I know that I also have a higher genetic risk of having a higher LDL cholesterol. So when you start to see that creep up, you can be on the offense and get more of those dietary recommendations of, all right, how can I stay ahead of this before it becomes a problem? Because even if you're a runner, if you start to run into heart health issues, obviously that's going to impede your longevity and sport goals. So it's just helping you stay on top of things. You can see if you're genetically predisposed, you might be in the greens now, but okay, I still need to work a little bit harder than the next person. Genetics aren't destiny. And then I just wanted to go off of Dean's point with his iron, getting those iron levels up. Many endurance athletes, runners, particularly females, struggle with that. I'm in the same boat. And one of the great things about Inside Tracker is some of the markers that we test in that iron group, in that iron panel, particularly ferritin, which is that stored form of iron. Unless you have a history of anemia or someone who is at a very higher risk for having anemia or iron deficiency, it's going to be very hard to have that tested through your general practitioner. So that really gives us a very accurate picture of iron stores in the body. That number will drop before hemoglobin. So it's, again, kind of staying on that offense and staying ahead of things before you really dig yourself into a hole, which is so important in longevity in sport, at any age, really, 18 plus, of course. But I know he mentioned supplements, and another great tool that we have is that anywhere a supplement is recommended, you will get a drop down saying, hey, this is a recommended dose you should start at. The best form is for sulfate, and every kind of thing you might need to know on how to best take that supplement so you're getting the most out of it. So that's also a really great tool, because especially with the iron, it's a little bit trickier. It's like a little tango dance to supplement that best so your body is absorbing it. So just wanted to bring that up.
No, I'm so glad. It's so great to hear from a registered dietitian that can kind of walk us through all of this and point us in the right direction. Rebecca, I have the same question for you.
So yeah, what I'm focusing on right now with Inside Tracker, and I'm, I have some similarities with Shalane and Dean, but at first, I was kind of like, we're all competitive. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get all A's, you're getting a report card. I'm like, I'm going to be in the greens for everything. And so I was a little shocked when I wasn't perfect, or didn't get all A's on my report card. And part of me was like, kind of shocked, kind of bummed. But then, talking to Stevie, it was like, and like Shalane said, it's like, you're just not in an optimized level. Like you're okay. You're not going to die tomorrow. And really actionable things of like, look, we're not going to take all these things away. They're not massive lifestyle changes. It's just like, eat more veggies. It's the stuff your grandma would tell you and you kind of knew you had to do anyway, but it's like, yeah, just eat more veggies, get some fiber. And so I really like that, even though it seemed a little scary, like I also have borderline high cholesterol, and I was just like, panicked about it, and low vitamin D, low magnesium, a couple of similarities with Dean, and Shalane. But then, yeah, Stevie was like, okay, we'll do this and this and this and this. And I was like, all right, that doesn't seem so scary. And I think what's nice, I really like what you said about playing offense, not defense. Like at first I'm like, I don't know if I want to know all these things. If I'm predisposed to this or that or the other, maybe I just don't want to know. And I'll just keep going along happily through my life. But, the fact that you can play offense and you can make alterations that are easy, and you're not predisposed, if you're predisposed to something, it doesn't mean you're going to have it. It means we have a chance to actually alter the trajectory of steer that ship a little bit different way. And I really appreciated that it was easy to use. There were like super normal, like user-friendly explanations. I mean, you can get all nerdy and sciencey, but otherwise it's just like, hey, eat your veggies, you know? And so I appreciated that it was easy to use because we're all busy. We're all trying to do a lot of things. And it wasn't like a massive lifestyle change. It was just like, hey, here's a check-in. And it scared me enough with the cholesterol to be like, oh, you know, and so I'm going for that perfect score. All of us, we want to get on our report cards.
Yeah, and it's great too that if it's something that's easy and to adapt into your lifestyle, you don't have to do something so crazy that it feels like impossible to make those changes. So thank you, Rebecca. Okay, so the next question I'm going to throw out to Dean. Let's talk about your book, which is super exciting. So your new book, A Runner's High, Older, Wiser, Slower, Stronger. So talk to us about your book and your big focus on longevity in the book. Love to hear about it.
How's this for a shameless plug? There's a cover. The book is about returning to a race called the Western States 100-mile endurance run that I first did 25 years ago, and trying to be as competitive as I was 25 years ago, and the lesson I learned along the way. But it also involves family, you know, as any of us that are runners or endurance athletes know, you know, you're not an island. When you start running great distances or riding great distances, it impacts all of your interpersonal relationships with your family, with your friends, and so forth. So it's a lot about my relationship with my father and also with my son, Nicholas. So it's narrative, it's storytelling. It's not prescriptive. I don't recommend do this or that. It's basically a grand story. And, you know, hopefully it sounds like you're enjoying the book. So I tried to make it propulsive where, you know, you start reading and you get into these adventures with me, and you run alongside me, and you relate to the things I'm discussing, because if you're a runner or an endurance athlete, you've experienced the same emotions yourself.
Yeah, there was a couple.
Tell me, it's hard for me as an author to plug my own book, but you've been reading it. You know, have you enjoyed it? Be honest.
Yes, I'm totally being honest. I haven't finished it yet, but so I've not done an ultra marathon yet. That's definitely on my list. But in the beginning of the book, when you were talking about doing that ultra marathon in Bishop with your dad, which I think was so cool that your dad's like 80 years old and he was crewing for you. And I love that whole relationship that happened and him being there for you. But anyway, as you walking us through the journey of going through this, I was definitely like, okay, I want to do one, but then I was a little scared too, because there was a lot going on. I love the part where you go to the one aid station and then they tell you, okay, go down and you have to find the smiley stickers at the end of this tree. And then you're like, where's the tree? I don't see the tree. Did I pass the tree? You know, it was just real. I love your storytelling. So.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. And maybe one day you'll try an ultra marathon.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, so let's see here. Shalane, we have to talk about your cookbook because I've sent you an email. You know I'm a fan. I love both of your cookbooks. I can't wait for the third one to come out. I'm not even kidding you that we use your recipes so much in our house. I love the ginger molasses bread. I make it practically every day, put it in the kids' lunch. We have it for breakfast. So I want to talk to you about your book. Okay, so a lot of female runners who under fuel wind up in a cycle of injury and illness, and they end up leaving the sport. So in your new cookbook, Rise and Run, Recipes, Rituals, and Runs to Fuel Your Day, how are these recipes, how can they support runners who want to prioritize longevity?
Yeah, well, so my co-author, Elise Kopecki, and I believe that breakfast is essentially the most important meal of the day. If you're going to pick one, we feel like breakfast is the best. And we feel like endurance athletes really love breakfast. And we believe they like two breakfasts. We think there's a first breakfast and there's a second breakfast. So it's all about fueling your run, right? So, you know, there's sometimes you're going to need, for maybe Dean's monster runs, he's going to feel different than if I'm going to go head out the door for just a little, 5-mile run down the road, right out of bed. But so we believe in fueling the run and fueling yourself for life with good, high quality foods. We don't believe in you know, any type of dieting. We were more like inclusive as opposed to exclusive. We don't believe in diet trends. We believe though that like food should taste good, right? It can be healthy and taste good. And I think there's a lot of people think like, oh, well, you have these healthy cookbooks, they don't taste good. Like, no, like food should taste amazing. It should be crave worthy. So yeah, you know, I witnessed in college a lot of young women under fueling, and as a result, they didn't have long running careers, and they, you know, shortened their potential right there, and they, you know, maybe aren't even running now today, and certainly didn't fulfill their potential because they were under fueling, and that's men and women, but primarily my experience was with women. So that honestly was the motivation to write cookbooks, was to help young women see, like, here I am running at a really high level, expect a lot from my body. And I realized when I got into the marathon specifically that I needed to fuel myself with great food, and I was under fueling. I could tell like I was headed in a bad direction. I didn't know how to correct and right the ship exactly, but thankfully my best friend of 20 years was going through nutrition school, and she started cooking a few recipes for me, and I was like, oh, they're going to be too healthy, I won't really like them. And she convinced me to try them out, and they were satisfying, they tasted great. And I think, you know, I was in this era of diet trend of like no fat or low fat, and so once I started incorporating a lot more of the healthy fats like avocados, nice you know, nut butters, oils, the right oils, I started to feel satiated, and I feel like it literally extended my career. I was headed in a direction of feeling just not really excited to train because I think I was tired a lot. And once I started fueling properly and using our recipes that we started to work on together, you know, I can't say it's a direct correlation, but I really believe that it helped me extend my career. I wouldn't have a New York City Marathon win, I genuinely believe, and I wouldn't have made a fourth Olympics. I wouldn't have set another American record. There's a lot of things that I would have left on the table, like unfinished business, if I hadn't learned how to fuel myself properly. So it's definitely a passion of ours to, you know, it started off as a selfish endeavor to help myself. And then we realized like, we have to share this information. There's so much bad information out there. So yeah, but getting back to it, Rise and Run is I think it's our best cookbook personally. There's more than just recipes. I'm also giving just kind of an insight into all the gurus that I consulted with throughout my career. You know, I was surrounded with incredible people that gave me great advice, and the team that helped me get to where I was. And so I include their advice and their wisdom, and then I provide insight into what I believe would be a great training program for someone who has running experience, but maybe hasn't run a marathon yet. So I've catered like a training program for my best friend, Elise, who was a collegiate runner, but she's never run a marathon. So she's my guinea pig, and I created a training program, 14-week like training program for her. So I'm excited just to share like my knowledge that I've attained all these years, as well as inspire people to get in the kitchen and cook for themselves.
That is so cool. So when is the cookbook coming out? We can't wait.
Yes, it is October 12th, I believe. Don't hold me to it, but definitely October sometime. Yeah.
And I just wanted to confirm my professional opinion that breakfast is the best, and there should always be more than one.
I'm glad you support it.
Yeah, I love the idea of 2 breakfasts, because sometimes you get up super early and then you want something, and then like mid-morning it's like, oh wait, I'm still hungry and I'm not ready for lunch. Yes. So I'm all for it.
Lots of options for the pre-run, little nibble that you just need to get going, and then we have the indulgent brunch for afterwards. We got you all covered.
Love it. Love it. Okay, Rebecca. So let's see here. I want to ask you, what would you say to a younger version of yourself or to young bikers about how to prioritize longevity in the sport?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So longevity in the sport, you think of, you know, I was rock climbing at, you know, a younger version in my 20s. I was rock climbing a bunch, and, you know, I've done a lot of different sports, and most people think of me as a cyclist now, but I started as a runner, then was a paddler, then a rock climber, adventure racing, cross-country skiing, a bunch of stuff. And now my chosen sport is cycling. And that may seem like it's all over the place and circuitous, but there is a common theme through all of it, is that I love to explore. Even as a little kid, I was camping in the backyard. And so there's been a theme between all those different sports, is that I followed a passion of wanting to explore and move in the outdoors that I think I was born with. And so I think for longevity, there's a lot to be said about variety. I don't know very many really long term athletes who haven't who do only one sport. Even Dean and Shalane here, I bet you cross country ski, or Dean, we know you ride a bike. And so I think having some variety in your training, even if you've got your primary sport, is really important for longevity. And so a lot of runners find cycling because they're injured. And so for my younger self, I would say, just keep, following your heart of the things that excite you, that make your hands sweat, whatever sport it is. Those are the things that are calling to you. And the other really big thing I would say is forgiveness of what I call my 80% rule. And, I have a training and I have a coach, and we're all high achiever people who are moms and have jobs, and we're trying to be really fit. And you can't do 100% of everything 100% of the time. And so I have this kind of 80% rule, and my coach knows, like, I'm never going to check off everything on the list. But I try to get 80% of the way there 100% of the time. And that kind of consistency is what will, not like that you did some amazing hard workout, last week. It's that you consistently moved your body a lot throughout your lifetime. And so that 80% rule is giving yourself forgiveness. And as a younger athlete, I think I was pretty obsessed with making sure, I was doing all the workouts, and, we can get really hyper focused on a finish line when, we're in it right now. This is, like I said, version 5.2 or whatever version you're going to be on. And so I think forgiveness of yourself that we're not going to be perfect, that gives you a lot of freedom to be pretty darn good, and like Shalane and Dean, you're winning Olympics, world championships, all these things, and none of us are 100%. But you can still achieve a lot with that 80% rule. So I think forgiveness is important for people to stay in the sport, or in any sport.
That is such a great piece of advice that I'm sure everybody listening can take away. And I feel like for me, like when I was a younger athlete, I didn't give myself as much forgiveness. I was super hard on myself. Like if a race didn't go well, it was kind of like, you almost felt like everything was over. And it's like, it's not a big deal. You run a marathon, it doesn't go the way that you want it to go, but you can do it again. And I love what you're just saying about being consistent. And for someone who's been at the top of your sport, I think it's really important for people to hear that. So thank you, Rebecca. Okay, Dean, I have a question for you about runners in your 50s. So what advice do you have for runners in their 50s and beyond to stay excited and fresh about the sport, especially when there's such an emphasis placed on age?
I think having that sense of adventure is really important. So for me, that means not training on the same route 2 days in a row. It means, some days running short and fast, other days running long and slow, just putting on a backpack and heading out on a trail, and maybe going for 4 hours, maybe going for 6 hours, maybe going all night, just, running to my heart's content. And that, to me, keeping it fresh and not making it just about running the same route every day is really important. The other thing I would say is to, listen to everyone, follow no one. So, when Shalane was talking about 2 breakfasts, I'm nodding my head like I should be doing that, but I'm a lifelong faster. So I don't eat breakfast. And, and I've been paleo for about the past 10 years. And, my coach was a guy named Jack LaLanne. He said, if man makes it, don't eat it. And if it tastes good, spit it out. So I don't eat food that tastes good, but it fuels me. And that's what works for me. But obviously it doesn't work for everyone. So I encourage you to experiment in your training and find what works best for you, and also to keep it fresh and keep exploring. Never sit down. Your entire day should be about working out. Like I'm as you can see, I'm standing up right now. I do all my writing standing up. When we had that short break, I do HIIT training. So I've got this routine of body weight HIIT training where I did push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, chair dips, and 25 burpees. So I'm constantly working out throughout the course of the day, as well as running. Never slowing down, never sitting, never stopping, continually moving throughout the course of the day.
Okay, Dean, I feel lazy now. Because there's a lot of times in my day where, I'm moving a lot. I have 3 kids, so I'm definitely like moving a lot, but there's times when I'm not. So, okay, you're inspiring me. I need to move more. Bust out some burpees or something. Will you tell us really quick, because we were talking about this before we got started. So we want to know about the medals and the bats behind you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so one time I ran 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days. And I got a pair of, those are the shoes I wore. They're bronze shoes they gave me. That was the last pair I wore. I wore like 8 pairs of shoes. And then these 2 things are, you see those 2 things. They're Olympic torches. I carried the Olympic torch here in my hometown of San Francisco. And I'm Greek, so I carried the Olympic torch one time in Greece, which was really meaningful. Yeah, on the original marathon course.
Was that for the 2004 Olympics, Dean?
It was no. I went to those. Those were in Greece. No, it was for the 2018 for the South Korea games. Have you ever been to, like, if any of you ever run the traditional, or they call it the Athens Authentic Marathon? It's the original route of the Phidippides, the marathoner.
That's a bucket list to go at least watch, if not participate. Looks incredible.
Yeah, it buckles your knees when you cross the finish line. Just the lore of it all, where it all began.
So, okay, yeah, I'm right there. I'm definitely want to do that. And, we hear so much about Phidippides being marathoners. So that seems really cool. But I want to ask you, Dean, okay, you did 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days. I'm trying to wrap my mind around that. So, and I'm sure everybody else is too. Like, did you sleep at all? Like, what did that look like, the whole journey of that?
Yeah, no, so the travel was as tough as the running. Some days I'd run a marathon and get on a bus, and drive for 8 or 10 hours to the next state. But I think that the final marathon was the New York City Marathon. And I ran it in, it's slow for you, Shalane, but I ran it in 3 hours and 30 seconds. So 3 hours.
Not slow. That is not slow.
Well, with 49 marathons on my legs, 49 days prior, I was happy with that. But yeah, I think
what 7-minute miles, right? That's 7-minute miles.
I think somewhere around, maybe a little bit under, but yeah.
A little bit under, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think it speaks to the resilience of the human body. I grew stronger over 50 days, and I didn't break down. Unbelievable.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to get ready to start wrapping it up. But before we do, I wanted to ask Shalane a question. So Shalane, as you approach 40 this summer, what advice do you have for women who want to stay competitive in the sport and at their best in their 40s?
I think it's exactly what Dean and Rebecca have kind of been saying is variety and keeping things fresh and fun and being reinvigorated every now and then. A way for me recently to kind of stay re-engaged and set new personal athletic goals is kind of focusing more quality over quantity. So I used to be big into high mileage. I felt like I needed to do that to run at my highest possible level to compete. But now I have more limited time. I'm working as a coach, writing cookbooks. I'm a new mom. So I really just focus on my intention and what do I want to get out of it for the day. But at the same time, like Dean said, I like to be a bit playful. Like sometimes I just don't run with a watch. I don't know how long. I just want to go explore a new trail. And that is very opposite of how I was as a real elite athlete. So it's kind of refreshing to me to not be so calculated in terms of always with a watch. But like I said, at the same time, I want to make my time count. So some days are more intentional. Some are like, I'm going to intend to play today. And today I'm actually going to go, I'm going to go do some hills. Like that hill looks like fun to run. I'm going to go run that hill. So it's just a different way to approach it, but I think it keeps it fresh, especially as you're aging. And one mantra this past year, since it was a hard year for everyone, to kind of stay motivated with whatever they were potentially training for, I felt like my mantra was mood follows action. So I wasn't in the mood sometimes to get out the door, new mom, sleep deprivation. But I knew I'd be a better person and a better mom and a better wife if I went for a run. But it was weird how I kind of got this, I think I read an article by the New York Times, this malaise that kind of came over me where I was like indifferent. So I felt like I had to just kick open the door, and I would tell myself, you only have to run like a half mile down the road. And if at a half mile, you're like, this isn't for me, turn around, go home. But I never wanted to go home. I was like, okay, let's see what's around the corner. I want to go a little bit further. Oh, I want to go a little bit further. And before I knew it, I was running way further than I thought. And I came back in such a better mood. So the mantra that, everyone I would love to share is mood follows action. My good friend, Brad Stolberg, gave it to me this past year when I was feeling this malaise wash over me. But yeah, it's all about just staying fresh and creating new goals and throwing in, I've been cycling more this year. I've been getting back in the weight room a little bit more, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, all of that, just to kind of keep things, I'm a good total athlete. Sometimes it's good to focus on just being a good, total, strong athlete as opposed to just a singular focus. Like I'm just a cyclist, I'm just a runner, I'm just a swimmer. I think if you can incorporate a bunch of athletic movements, you're going to be stronger and better, and literally your longevity will extend if you do incorporate all that.
Such great advice, you guys, from, a multiple time Olympian. And I love that too, because I feel like sometimes, and we all go through this, where sometimes you don't really feel like going on a run, but you kind of want to, or you kind of need to, especially if you're on a training plan or something, or you want to get out because it's going to make you feel better. And then you just I'm going to go out for 5 minutes. And if I'm not feeling it, I'm going to come back. And I love hearing you say that, Shalane.
Yes, I've never had it worse than last year, to be honest, because I just didn't have anything to grab onto as a goal. I felt goalless in the first time in my life, and nothing to shoot for athletically. And it was a weird feeling. I did not like it. But I knew I'd be a better person, and my health and everyone around me would appreciate it if I'd go for a run. So, you really just have to promise okay, 5 minutes or just to that post or whatever. And I swear I've never regretted going for a run. I've never come back being like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Every time I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful I connected with outside and fresh air, and you're just always so much more appreciative after a run. So
yeah, awesome. Well, I'm looking at our time, and I know I know I could talk to you guys. First of all, I want to go for a run with every single one of you. So I'm going to somehow make my way to, it's definitely San Francisco. Gonna come up to Oregon, definitely coming back to Idaho. And Stevie, where do you live?
Oh, I don't know. It's not so sunny Buffalo, New York. So you're going to have to go all the way to the East Coast, but we have a few nice months coming up.
I'm coming. It sounds beautiful. So everyone, will you tell everyone listening where they can find you and all the particulars? Dean, will you start us off?
Yeah, just look out on the trail here on the West Coast, and that's me running out there. But no, just Google my name. I'm on social media and have a website. So someone told me when you type in Dean, I'm the first person that comes up. So if you need to find me, that's the way.
That's a good stat. You should add that to your bio. You Google Dean, it's me.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Rebecca, where can everybody find you?
I'm at RebeccaRusch.com, RUSCH. And like I said, I would like to invite and challenge all of you for the end of May to join me for Giddy Up Challenge. Run, bike, indoor, outdoor, wherever you are. And we'll be on a team together. and also really raise money to protect our open spaces and public lands. And Shalane, I did want to say one thing about getting out the door like that. And what's been really cool and interesting is, you know, the reason that after 15 or 20 minutes we feel better is your brain is actually releasing neurochemicals that make you feel better. And so the science behind it is there. If we can just get our one step out the door, then our brains start doing all the cool work and you do feel better. And so it's cool that you were finding that. And I've been really interested in all the like brain chemicals and what's going on basically inside your body that is making you make the choices. And it's Stevie can probably explain it way better, but I find that really fascinating that this stuff works. We know it works and your body knows it works. So yeah, I hope, thanks. I'm so excited to meet Shalane and Dean because I've been fans for a long time. So thanks for making this happen, Inside Tracker.
Yes, I know. Thank you, Inside Tracker, for bringing us all together. Stevie, where can everybody find you if they need advice on their Inside Tracker test and what to do?
Yeah, you can always reach out to the Inside Tracker team. We're here to help answer any questions, direct you to any blogs we might have written and any insights there. If you want to go a little bit more in depth, you can find me at stevielynrd.com. Must love my dog. There will always be lots of dog pictures, but I do like to share some recipes and other little content for the endurance focused athlete.
Awesome. We'll definitely be following you. Shalane, where can we find you?
At Shalane Flanagan. I had to look it up. I didn't even know what I was on Instagram, but at Shalane Flanagan on Instagram. And then we have a great website, runfasteatslow.com, where we love to hear feedback, ideas, people sharing stories. It motivates us, literally fuels us to keep writing. So those two places is where we check and can converse with people.
Awesome. Everybody, you can find me everywhere at Nat Runs Far, and on our podcast at sweetrun.com. Thank you all so much for taking the time to be here and to listen to these amazing athletes who I've admired all of them for a long time. And so it was such an honor for me to moderate this panel. Thank you all for being here. And if you want to catch the replay or share it with a friend, it'll be available tomorrow on insidetracker.com. They're not .com, but they're IGTV. Thanks, you guys. As we go into the weekend, have a great weekend.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks,
Bye. Thank you all.
Be good.
Be well.